night. What music they make.
Okay, hi, hello. Welcome back from our long ass hiatus. This is the Monster Cast. I know I'll go just right off the bat real quick. I know we've only been doing these Haunters appreciations lately, before the well, at least before the hiatus, and it's because it's a bit hard to get everyone together for scheduling and things I figured out. We need a lot of material to work with, which the pandemic wasn't giving us much, so we're on a bit of a hiatus. But we're back better than ever, and I thought, kind of a good way to start and segue back into the main stuff before we get in all the craziness is to just do another one of these and kind of throw back into what you guys got used to the past couple of weeks or so. And also another reason I was on hiatus is because I've been working on a really big team project that's been going for a good while that I'm kind of trying to get off the ground, which I won't share not a lot about it yet because we got to start getting some more work done on it first. But I will talk about it soon. It's very exciting. We're all working really hard. It's a genuine, really big project, like much bigger than the show will ever be. But anyways, so yeah, and the guest that I have on today is someone from my deck of the woods because I work there. Someone from Not Scary Farm. We here today with Gumby, aka Emberlee. If you want to introduce yourself and say hi.
My haunt name is Gumby, but my character that I played the last 2 years at Knott's would be Emberlee. I played in Ghost Town and Carnival last year.
Yeah. So would you rather be addressed by Gumby or Emberlee?
We could just go with Gumby.
Gumby works. Yeah. I think Gumby has a better ring,
Yeah.
and because I know the character way back in the day, Gumby.
Oh no, that's why I got the haunt name, and you can get into that story because that's a good one.
Yeah, actually, that'd be a good way to start. I'm curious now.
Okay, so I only worked haunt 3 years. I started when I was 18, back in 2017. Then was back the next year in 2017, then 2018. 2019 was my last year. I was going to come back for the pandemic, but life got too busy. But back in 2017, I was in Paranormal Inc. And usually, when you're in a maze, unless something very traumatic, jarring, hilarious, or something happens, you don't usually get your haunt name your first year. And I didn't. But I had a moment where I was crawling on the ground with my arms turned in because I was a demon in paranormal. And this guy jumps over me and he goes, that's some Gumby mother effing shit. And I was like, okay, pause, pause, pause. I need to take a minute. So I walked off to the side, like kind of reset and started laughing because I just was not expecting anything like that, especially because he jumped way over me. And it just kind of was in the back of my head. I didn't think anything of it because a haunt name has to be given to you by somebody else. So I didn't think anything of it. Next year, I was on streets. I was in Ghost Town, and I used to contort myself because it freaked people out, and because I was a doll, so I didn't want to move like a human. I wanted to move doll-like. And
Mhm.
one of my coworkers, Morty, who's the vampire who wears the hat, he saw me walking with myself bent to the side, and it was like a slow Thursday. So he looks at me and he sits me right back up. He takes both hands on my side and sits me back up, pats me on the head, and lets me keep going. Well, I turn around, I look at him because I was like, "What was that for?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." So he bends me back sideways and pushes me back. So then it just became like a thing where he'd walk over, he'd bend me sideways, and he'd push me at people, and it'd freak him out. So then we got into a conversation where he's like, "You know what? Every time I bend you and push you at guests, that like you feel like you're Gumby." And then everyone else started laughing. They're like, "All right, second, third, and fourth, your haunt name is Gumby." So it's just funny how it kind of came full circle, and they didn't even know the first story,
Oh my
and it
god.
just stuck. Yeah. And then I
Yeah.
dressed up as Gumby, and that was fun. On Halloween, I came in the costume, so
It came full circle.
came full circle.
Yeah, so you've already peaked. It's all downhill from here.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. I know. I start off on a high note.
Yeah, you just knocked it out of the park right away, and now you don't know what to do.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I try.
No, it's okay. I kid. I mean it with love.
I
But
appreciate that. I mean, I got some other good ones. We'll pepper in there.
yeah, we'll sprinkle through them. But yeah, no. So do you have? I guess we can just get right into it. So you started with paranormal, and then you worked Ghost Town in 2018. Did you work any other zones outside of Ghost Town, or?
Yes, then I moved over to Carnival in 2019. Because I was a rookie in Ghost Town, the rule is that if you're a rookie in Ghost Town, you have to re-audition no matter how good you were. I was very fortunate, and yes, so I went in for my audition. They asked me, "What are you auditioning?" I said, "My same character, Emberlee, for Ghost Town." They said, "All right, go for it." I auditioned it. Next thing you know, I get an email, "Hey, you got your spot for Streets." I went, "Cool." I walked in. They sat me down for casting and said, "Alrighty, you're going to be in Carnival." Oh no, I remember. Sorry. I sat down next to one of my buddies from Ghost Town, Ed Cobb, who plays the Snake. And they had the Ghost Town binder out. They're talking to him. And they said, "Oh, let me go see where they moved you to." And I thought, moved me to? Huh. Okay. And then something in my heart told me, I don't know why. I was like, if it's anywhere, it's going to be Carnival. So he said, "All right, you're going to be clown number 49, and here's your paperwork, here's your schedule. What day do you want off?" And I just kind of sat there and I was like, oh, I took it all in for a little bit. At first, I was pretty apprehensive, I'll be completely honest, and because it's such a different feel. You don't have the fog. Everything is just you and the guests, and that's pretty much it. So I didn't know how to be a clown. I didn't know what I was doing, but I went, all right, let's go figure this out. And then actually, that was probably one of the best years I've had. The camaraderie over there, everybody has each other's back, and it's actually a lot of fun when the guests can see you and know you're coming at them, because it gives you that much more of a challenge to go, how am I going to approach this? Because I can't use the fog to my advantage.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I do like Carnival for the more like guest interaction, I guess. I don't really get that
Yeah.
scared in haunts anymore, especially because I do like creative stuff now, so like designing these things and trying to and doing stuff like that. But I'm always a sucker for good interaction and just having fun, and that
Oh,
zone
yeah.
was
And
really fun.
that's the beautiful thing about Carnival, because you can see us and we can see you. If you sit there long enough, there's a good chance you're going to see something really funny, or you're going to have a really good reaction with one of us, which I really, really appreciate, because you somewhat get that in Ghost Town, but you definitely have to be in certain areas like the porch or birdcage theater or anywhere where there's actually more light.
hmm Oh, I know I went as a guest last Thursday actually, and for the first
Hmm.
time in God knows how long at a haunt, an actor actually got me really good, like in a funny but still kind of jumpy way. Because since I work there, whenever I go in, I gotta check in with my team lead to show them my ticket and stuff, and say like, "Hey, I'm
Hmm.
not sneaking in. I'm here. Like, I'm here. My presence is known, but I paid for it." And
Yeah.
while I was doing all that, I didn't notice that one of the clowns who wields a fucking trombone or
Oh,
fucking
yes.
was behind me. And well, I was doing all that and they waited for like a good long ass time, like they were committed to this bit. And the moment I turned around because I was gonna go over to Mesmer after all that talk, they just play the loudest like downscale note ever, and I didn't even process them at first. I jumped to the fucking noise of the trombone.
That's
So it was
awesome.
like right there.
Yeah,
I
I don't
honestly
know
didn't
who
even
that
process
is,
like it
but
was
I've
an actor.
seen.
I went to fight or flight. Just I didn't even know it was an actor. I thought just some random ass fucker came to do with a trombone and just fucking started
That's
doing
so
a
funny.
downscale note as loud as they could.
No, that's the one thing, is that even though I'm not doing it this year, just to see the different faces, like I've seen him around, and I haven't been as a guest, but just, social media and everything, you start seeing these different faces. And I think that's an awesome bit that I feel like people should have been using a long time ago. I think it's super creative, super clever.
Yeah, no, I was after I finished laughing my ass off. I was walking into Mesmer. I was like thinking to myself, why have I never thought of that as a fucking item before? Like think of how
Yeah, exactly.
terrifying and new that is. Just to bring like an instrument and just the loudest fucking scale noise you can make with it as a scare.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, me looking at it, I thought it was just PVC pipes and paint, because I got a very bad glimpse of it in a video that someone
Yeah.
posted.
No, I
And
think
then
it's
when I saw him
genuine.
actually use it, it's genuine. And I thought, that's super clever. Hats off to him.
So, in conclusion, if I become this character again next year, I'm bringing a saxophone with me.
There you go. You guys can start a little band.
Yeah, we'll start we'll get a little thing going. We'll have a different
There you
instrument
go.
actor on each haunt, or like each big haunt around each coast, and we'll just form together like fucking Voltron and make a band together.
Or even just the zones in Scary Farm. Start small, you know? You get one in the Hollow,
Yeah,
one in the Goring 20s. You just start there.
yeah. Get a saxophone for Goring 20s. Get like a banjo for Ghost Town Streets. Get
There you
a
go.
fucking tambourines for Forsaken Lake. Get a drum. Get it for obvious reasons. Get a fucking drum for Wicked, and then we can make the
There
groovy
you go.
spooky '70s band on this God Green Earth.
There you go. And you could just come together at the end of the night in the front of the park, take pictures, and jam out a little bit.
And it'll be like back in the day with like Scooby Doo or like Archie when they would just break in the episode and go to like a fucking like '70s groovy dance bit.
Yeah, honestly, there you go. See?
It
You got it
all
all
works
figured
out.
out. It all works out.
Man. Do you have a favorite like outside of like bias of working stuff or doing anything like that? Do you have a favorite
Mhm.
maze from Knott's?
Oh, man. So another thing that I had the wonderful opportunity of doing was carpentry. I did carpentry between the 2017-2018 season. So right as I was getting into Ghost Town Streets, it was after Paranormal, I did carpentry. So I will always have a soft spot for dark entities because I helped work on that. But scary wise, like set design wise, I kind of like how entities kind of has the same thing in every room. Like it's very similar. Every room looks almost identical. Where obviously like Mesmer is a great example of every room is different. I kind of like the continuity of dark entities in the fact that it's just like how long is this spaceship? This is a long, you know, big endeavor, and when's it gonna end? But ooh, I really like Origins though. That was one that I was working as a team lead. I couldn't do carpentry that year, but knowing that came the year after I stopped, I was really jealous of everybody because it's such a beautiful maze and so beautifully executed, and it's a little love letter to Not Scary Farm and how it
Yeah,
started.
I think the haunt community is mutually agreed. Origins might be one of the best theme park haunt mazes ever designed.
Oh yeah. No,
Both
it's
Origins
gorgeous and
and
it all
both Origins and Mesmer in their own rights might be some of the best designed for a theme park haunt.
see, I've watched videos of Mesmer, but I'm gonna have to go experience it for
It is
myself.
something you really gotta go experience yourself. That maze is
Yeah, I'm
pure
going on
fucking magic.
Saturday, so I'm very excited to see it.
You can come bug me at work. I'm going as actually, no, you can't because I'm working the day shift. Never mind. Yeah,
Ah,
almost. But I'm visiting. I'm actually going back as a guest tomorrow. So
oh, very nice.
I'm mainly going to check out the other shows because I went last
Oh
Thursday. The only
yeah,
show that I watched was I watched 2 sets of Puppet Up, but I want to see
nice.
Invitation to Terror because I heard that's really good.
I've heard a lot of good things about that one. Yeah,
Yeah, it's in the Mystery Lodge Theater. I didn't think they'd ever use that again.
I didn't either, especially because it seemed like the renovations were just going to keep going on and on and on and on and prolonging them. That I thought, oh, we're never going to get another show. So it's really nice to see them utilize that space.
Yeah, not only that, the fact that we didn't get not only one new show, but we have like 6 shows this year.
Yeah, no, it's. I think that Knots came back with a bang, and I think it's perfect for what everybody's
Yeah,
been expecting.
yeah, they kept doing the tradition of making new exclusive food offerings from fall Halloween because everybody liked those.
Hmm.
They got a whole bunch of new
Yeah.
shows because they needed something to fill the gap of the hanging being gone. So they got a ton of new shows. There's only one new maze, but it fucking delivers tenfold and might be one of the best things I've ever seen, like eye candy wise, when it comes to creative things.
Yeah.
And just every original maze, every returning maze, from big to small, at least got something new. Whether
Oh,
maybe
that's
it's
good to
yeah
know.
maybe from a slightly different lighting package to like new effects in a room or to like whole new things. It seemed like everything got at least something new.
Well, that's good to know because I know I promised my family that I was not going to watch any YouTube videos. I was going to go in there, and experience it all for myself because I'm always the one, oh, opening weekend, I want to watch the videos. But this year I was like, no, 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 I'm not going to. Mesmer was the only one I couldn't. I had to watch it. So I would love to see all the improvements, and I'm very excited to see that each maze got a little facelift in the off season. That
both from big
was
to
an
small.
unprecedented off season. Yeah, that's super cool though. I like that.
Yeah, my favorite of all time is they finally restored the big old shark in depths to how it was the first year. So he's fast
Oh,
as fuck.
nice.
He's fast as fuck again.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome. Because he was not as jarring when he was super slow, so it's nice to see that scare factor back in.
Yeah, and they added a little bit more like fog and stuff there, so he comes as a bit more of a surprise to you. It's not as out in the open anymore. But that fucker is ferocious now if you manage to get him.
That's awesome.
And it made me happy because that's how he was the first year.
Yeah, no, I remember that, and I remember, if I remember correctly, they slowed him down a bit because he was having a few mechanical issues. But hopefully they fix those, and hopefully he can go as fast as he wants, because it's a cool feature.
It is, and from the looks of it, or at least from what I saw when I was going through it, I think the giant puppet of the pumpkin and pumpkin eater got a new coat of paint too. So look a bit
nice.
more,
That's
just
good.
look a bit more pumpkin-y.
That's cool. That's good to know, especially because that maze is, up all year long. It's just cut off at a certain point, so the wear and tear is still happening.
Yeah, no, anything that was like a wear and tear, it seems like they restored just about everything in that maze since they actually have the time to do it now. So it doesn't really feel like, oh, it's been sitting there vacant for 2 fucking years.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome. That's what needed to happen.
It got a little cleanup. It's really nice, especially if you can go by yourself through it. Which usually, if you go on like a Thursday or Sunday, you'll be very like, you pretty much can, because a lot of people forget that it's there. Unfortunately, even though I love it, it's a cute little thing. But it's a lot of fun going through that one by yourself because of how that maze is insanely spacious. Is the thing about it. It doesn't really feel like you're walking through like a maze because it's not very compact. But I mean that in a good way because it feels like you're actually in like an environment and it's really cool.
And you're just continuing through it. Yeah, it's not like you're twisting and turning through a building. Yeah. No, that's another underrated maze in my opinion. It's just the storytelling is amazing, and not only that, but just the different changes of atmosphere. If you're in a house and then you're inside of a pumpkin, which the versatility is just amazing.
Yeah, and it's never the structure of like, oh, walk to this point of the house, here's a wall, make a left, and then here's this big old room. It is a continuous path through the whole maze, and I find that incredible.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's just one big thing, and it makes me sad that some people even sometimes forget that it's there, because I know the Hollow in general is a pretty like, it's Camp Snoopy, we can go around its spot, and forget to like, no, there's stuff there, and there's really fucking cool stuff there. They have a headless horseman, like, go there.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but it's really just a nice little shortcut. If anything, people are going to look at it as anything but the zone itself, which the zone is incredible, but.
I'm glad that they brought in
nice
Wicked Drums.
around things.
Sorry. I was just saying, I'm glad they brought in Wicked Drums there because that's bringing in a couple people now.
That is true. When they make a show in every zone, then people want to go to those zones instead of just bypassing.
Yeah, and on top of the new shows, that's not even accounting for the mini shows they still do in the scare zones either.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there aren't really shows in like Ghost Town or Carnival, but let's just say there have been moments where things happen.
Carnival kind of has one. The light show on Hang Time is back, but that's about it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like moments where characters do something.
Yeah, I think the only ones that really do are the Hollow and Forsaken Lake.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I will say is that we definitely got a little jealous of Forsaken Lake, and let's just say I'm pretty sure it was like the last day or the second to last day that we had our own procession of Carnival.
Wasn't that the night when they were like playing the her song but on the kazoos or whatever?
Yep.
I was there for that.
Body.
I think I was the dead body. That was hilarious.
Yeah, we all kind of thought about it, dropped it a couple times, and the two of the original people who thought it would be a good idea were like, oh, I don't want to do it anymore. I said, well, we're getting down to the last weeks of Haunt. Let's figure it out. And then it was the last couple days. I said, we're doing it. It's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. So then we all kind of thought about it. And I said, I'll volunteer to be the dead body. And then we're like, Kazoo, can you play the song? He said, of course. So then it became a thing, and it was glorious.
Yeah. No, the year when Forsaken Lake first opened, that fucking cover of the Her Song those guys in Jelly the Month Club made was fucking everywhere promotional wise.
Oh yeah.
It was the opening ceremony song. It was on all the commercials. It was on the radio spots. Like, motherfucker.
But you know what? It was a great
Oh, it
song.
is. I listened to it like normally, and you could find the full thing on SoundCloud from Mr. Crumb. He's one of the members of Jelly the Month Club, the kids band we have, and he made that with the help of some of them, and they all put that together, and they put it for free on SoundCloud. I normally
Oh,
listen
that's
to it. It's
super
it's
cool.
really good. Like the full song is really great, and it totally deserved to be plastered everywhere that year. And I'm kind of sad they don't use it more, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, besides the
I
Fatal
couldn't agree
Procession and
more.
Forsaken.
Yeah. And then at least it still gets its moment, but I
Yeah.
understand why it doesn't anymore. It's because Forsaken's not new.
Yeah, that's true. And I know the Jelly of the Month Club guys are pretty frequent with our event, despite being a kids band, because Welcome to the Carnival that plays at Carnival during the show or whatever.
Is
That's
one of
that's
theirs as
their that's
well.
their song too.
Yeah. That's a good song.
It is good. I don't remember if they made it just for Goose or if it was made for Carnival because it was around a time where it could have. But I know as soon as the song did come out, it was kind of used for it. So I don't actually know what the intention of that one was.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I know that I am super happy they used it in Carnival because
It's
it was
fun.
one of our favorites. Like every time it'd come on, we all kind of look at each other and have a good time with it.
Yeah, no, those guys are good. Like I don't really like. Yeah, that's another song. Pretty much, the only songs from them I really listen to are the ones that either they make for or end up being used for Scary Farm, because that's
Yeah.
where you're really seeing. Because they're one of those kind of bands that I enjoy. Not really necessarily ska, but they're an actual like a band. Like they'll use big instruments and stuff. And when they come together and make more like I guess adult themed or like darker stuff for something like Scary Farm, they make some
Hmm.
really creative music.
Yeah, and that's how I was introduced to them. Honestly, was just working Scary Farm. So that's why I know the stuff they have produced for Scary Farm, or at least have produced and Scary Farm is utilized. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I really think that there's some creative geniuses over there.
Oh yeah, they are. It was kind of funny the way I discovered that they were like a normal thing at Knott's was I was normally coming in during the Peanuts Festival like before COVID in 2020 when they were doing all that, and I caught them singing "Welcome to the Carnival" one day when I was like, oh, I'll go in the park for a little bit after work back when I was still in foods and nah. And I just heard like the song. I was like, wait, what the fuck? And I looked over and I didn't realize that they've been like a normal band for the park. I thought they were just
Oh
kind of
yeah.
commissioned for that stuff. And outside of that, they were like, oh, we're a local kids joint and we do these songs for like birthday parties and stuff. I didn't realize that they were like not, I guess. And I got like the weirdest like whiplash from it.
Oh yeah, no, and I remember seeing that on some of my friends who enjoy Scary Farm. They posted on their stories as soon as they heard it. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't care if it's the off season. I'm so excited. They're playing it." So that
Yeah,
was
no,
super cool.
like imagine just walking through the park, hearing all the Charlie Brown jazz, and then just you're walking to get over to like whatever's over there, and then just out of the corner of your ear, you just hear, oh wait, Scary Farm's back. What the fuck?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think it's all, and I'm glad that they out of all songs they could play, they went, "You know what? I'm sure there's some adults here who would appreciate
Yeah,
this."
I think that's exactly what it was. They're like, wait a second, we're coming off a Scary Farm. Why the fuck aren't we playing this? Like, we know there's the
Yeah.
adults here. Like this is our probably our one, besides her song, our one adult song, but their only adult song that can be played during the normal routine. So they're like,
That's
wait,
true. Yeah.
well, let's play this one. Give them something, because that's when you would always see the Scary Farm people fucking rushing over whenever that song would start.
Oh yeah, because you can hear it from a lot of places. You could be not even in the general area, but hear the band playing and go, "I'm going to go over there and, you know, have a good time to this because why would I not?" I mean, it reminds me of good times that are not happening right now. It helps, feel the itch
Yeah, and you could
or
tell
scratch the
you could
itch.
tell they knew, because yeah, they'd have a good set, but that'd be the one song where they really ham it up because they knew people were gonna leave after that one anyways. So they would always like go really hard and like ham out the fuck out of that one because they know like, oh, this is our crowd bringer song. This is the one that people know because people know Carnival.
Oh
This
yeah.
is us.
Well, and even the nice thing too is that even though it is played in Carnival, it is a very fun, happy kind of kids song if you
Yeah, oh yeah, it could be used in
so the
many
kids enjoy it
contexts.
regardless. Exactly.
Yeah, it could be used as a kid song. Could be obviously is and could be used as more of an adult song. I think it was more written that way, but they wrote it in a way that it could still be interpreted as, oh, it's a fun little carnival song for kids. But if you know,
Yeah.
it's really the song epitome of if you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like if you're aware, you know this is very much not a kids song for a kids carnival thing at all.
It is the, I'd say, most recognizable song of Carnival.
Yeah, that
At least
or
the only one with
that or
lyrics.
yeah, that I say the most recognizable song period is probably Carnival of Souls because that one plays so much.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's good. I like that song too because it's just creepy. It's the
Yeah,
fog of Carnival because
yeah,
Carnival doesn't have fog, so it kind of brings that spooky atmosphere without taking away from
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, I used to not be the biggest fan because the high chime part of it would kind of give me a bit of a headache, like way back in the day. But it grew on me,
Oh,
especially when the organ kicks in on that song. The organ's really good.
oh yeah, no, I agree.
It's a song you got to give it some time, especially if you because I used to have a bit of like slightly sensitive hearing that's kind of come back around lately.
Yeah, no, I get that, especially since you've had a season off of Haunt, so that takes getting used to again.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not used to my ears not being destroyed by the fall season.
Yes, exactly.
It's been weird coming back to. Yeah. Also, if you ever get a chance, I would say try to go see Puppet Up because one for the show, the guys are
Okay.
hilarious, but two, the Walter Knott Theater inside got a huge fucking facelift. Like,
Oh, nice.
oh my
Okay.
god, yeah. It's got brand new everything. The stage is clean as new. They finally got like really high quality, like 60 FPS, like TV frames or whatever for the TVs on top
Nice.
there. So they finally got like the really fancy stuff. And they even have for Puppet Up, they have a whole giant like Puppet Up marquee display thing on the stage that they made just for the
That's
show.
super cool.
And it's cute is
That's
that
super cool.
yeah, it's a giant version of. Did you ever see the show in 2019, or did you ever watch any videos of it?
I did not. I watched a few videos of it, but I didn't get around to it because the one day I had off. See, I'm the kind of person that when I go on my days off, or in this case, my one time of the year, I don't know if I'll be able to make it out again. I'm the one who, once I'm done with everything, I sit in a scare zone and just soak it all in. So I don't usually go to the shows, but because I'm experiencing it solely from a guest point of view this year, I will probably have to make it over there.
Yeah, at least go see Puppet Up and Invitation to Terror, if anything.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah,
And we're
but
doing buffet and all that, so I'll be
oh,
able to
that's
have time.
oh nice. You know, the reason I was saying
Yeah.
is if you've seen it because they have a little bit like one of their old bits called I think it's called like Java or Lava, and it has these cute little
Okay.
puppets that are controlled with two sticks that are like they're like pretty much like a fuzzy version of those like slinkies. Like when they stretch out, you make like two legs and
Oh,
they walk.
yes.
And so the marquee thing looks like a giant version of one of those, and he even has two eyes. And the way that they know that the show's about to start, you know how when lights will like shatter, like blink when a show's about to start.
Yes.
The whole giant marquee thing is actually a puppet itself, and the eyes will move and will kind of blink when the show's starting instead of the lights blinking.
Oh, that's super cool. I
Yeah,
like that.
so they made a whole. So I could tell why they were wanting this show to be like the comeback show of that theater because you could tell it's a really big stage setup just for it. So they
Oh,
probably didn't
yeah.
want to bother moving it and then having to rebuild it like quick rapid. So I could tell why there wasn't a show in there for the 100th.
Yeah.
And obviously a
Because
show
they
like
usually
that
do
of
an
that
ice show
nature.
or something.
Yeah, and obviously a show of that nature you very much cannot have in the day park.
Oh, not at all.
Like I don't think legally they could, or like contractually or legally they could get away with it. In an adult
I mean,
event,
the
you
only
could.
potential thing is if you just use different puppets and made sure that it was super PC. But the whole point of Puppet Up is not to be a traditional puppet show. So how do you tune it back without changing exactly what it stands for?
Yeah, if you censor a show called Puppet Up Uncensored, what do you do from there?
Exactly.
And I mean, I'm sure, yeah, those guys are really funny. They probably could pull it off, like still being censored, but that just raw nature of it, and especially when you know that it's coming from the geniuses that do like the Muppets, Sesame Street, all that shit, it just makes it so golden when you know like these are the guys, and they're just doing the most lowbrow, like funny in an immature way shit ever. and it makes it
Yeah.
perfect. It's a setup for success that works every time.
Oh no, for sure.
Well, you know,
And
these
that's
guys are like masters of their fucking class.
and exactly, and they've been doing PC comedy and G comedy for all these years for kids. So it's nice to see them explore outside that realm and make puppeting for, puppeteering, I should say, for adults as well.
Yeah, actually, I would say it's very much in nature of the old days of Jim Henson. Because if you know Jim Henson, he originally was an adult like entertainer with his puppets, and he wanted to be known for his adult comedy. But actually, that's why Muppets, if you watch the old Muppets nowadays, is still kind of adult. But what made him known as like, oh, the kids puppeteer, even though it was kind of against his will in a way, if you look more into a story, was Sesame Street. Because then that was the one that he really got known for, and that's the only reason why he's known as like, oh, he's a big kids puppeteer when he's really not. So this show
Oh,
is
interesting. I
going
didn't know
back to
that.
his So this show is going back to his old nature in a sense.
That's super cool.
Yeah, so it really feels it's different if you don't know the full story of Jim Henson, but if you do, it's probably the biggest homage to his work since like I want to say Muppets 3D at Disney.
I really liked Muppets 3D, so that's selling me to go see Puppet Up even more.
Yeah, and it's hosted by what's his face, Patrick Bristow. He's a pretty funny actor. He was in I think he was in Austin. I know he was in Austin Powers, like Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, a couple of little things. So he's one of those actors that like, oh, if you hear the name, you won't recognize it, but you see him in person, it's like, oh, I know this guy from this. So it's kind of
Oh,
cool to have a
gotcha. That's super
celebrity.
cool.
Yeah, once you
'Cause
see
do
his
they
face
have
and
a
see him doing
celebrity
his
back
thing,
in
you'll recognize him.
2019?
Hey, what?
Do they have a celebrity back in 2019? The same guy or is it different?
Same guy. He's been the consistent
Okay.
host of Puppet Up for like a couple of years now.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check out the videos then too.
Yeah, and I know on some nights, I'm not sure if he's done it outside of opening night this year yet, but Brian Henson does come and does do the show sometimes, like either making appearances or anything. And Brian is the son of Jim, so
That's super cool.
that's when you're really getting that full experience. You're watching like probably the predecessor to the master at work.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's super cool that he even, steps foot on Knott's property to do a show or maybe even two. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I know they talked about during their run last year that outside of the Jim Henson studio, that this is their favorite venue and spot where they've done their show and the years of the
Oh, that's
show's been
super
going.
cool.
Yeah, because I think Knott's takes care of them really well. They don't give them way too
Mhm.
many sets and tire them out, and they give them a whole big show and good breaks and everything. They take care of them, and I think that's why they came back.
And I think it's nice too, the fact that, I mean, on the guest perspective, is that something like that you can obviously charge a lot of money for, at least charge
Yeah,
maybe $10 a ticket,
yeah. But
and they
that's the
don't
cool
even do
thing. If
that.
you go to their actual ticketed shows, they don't charge a lot at all.
Oh, that's super
The
nice.
most it is like $30, so it's a show that everybody can experience.
Oh, that's super nice. I like that.
Yeah. So, but it still is a really like a big deal. It's a good show, and it's crazy to have something of that caliber just here at our little homie Halloween event for 2 months a year.
Yeah, it's cool to see them grace the stage and, bring something of theirs to us and also just incorporate that into something we all enjoy so much, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, if they could get the hardcore Elvira gatekeepers to shut up, and they did, that's how you know you have a good show. Because
Oh,
Elvira was
yeah.
a very picky show to replace.
Well, especially because, I mean, she is who she is and she's got a name, a following, and a Scary Farm and her
Yeah,
following combined. She's got
she,
her own following. She's got the Scary Farm diehard fans. She's got a lot of ground to cover, and
oh yeah,
I'm really, really happy for Puppet Up to be able to fill her shoes. But not even that, but just create their own and maintain their own fan base.
yeah, exactly. Because Elvira was pretty much like the icon of Scary Farm for a good couple years. She was the next Sinister Seymour. Like
Oh
she
yeah,
was our thing. Well, obviously she's much more outside of that, but in terms of haunts and stuff, when you went to Nanchi, if you didn't know any of the monsters or any like Sarah Marshall, any of the story, your thought was, oh, Elvira.
exactly.
So for them
And
to
that's
actually be
something that
able to
was
pull something
cool.
like that off is crazy.
Oh yeah. I mean, maybe they don't have the same notoriety of, oh hey, what do you associate Not Scary Farm with?
Yeah.
Not Elvira, not not Puff It Up, but maybe someday. Maybe someday there'll be
Yeah.
that
Oh
connection
yeah.
and people
Yeah.
will think about it.
I'm sure they'll get there. But right now, it's just impressive that it's only been over 2 years and they've already reached the point of where nobody's complaining about it being there. That it's
Yeah,
mutually loved by
exactly.
everybody, and they fill seats even on the most quiet nights.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah, I like how we're two scare actors on a show. We've been talking about the shows more than the actual
Well,
sentence
I think part of
characters.
it is just, I mean, when you work the event and when you go to the event, you just have such an appreciation for things.
Oh
And
yeah,
sometimes it's nice just to, you know, speak on that and just hype up the event for itself. So no, I don't mind at all. I think it's great to talk about what is so important to what we do.
oh
If it
yeah.
wasn't for all of this, we wouldn't be doing it.
Oh yeah, no, and that's what this show is all about. It's just to talk about our love for everything, not just for the mazes, but we talk about everything here. We go into movies, we go into shows at haunts, like really, we'd like to talk about everything because we just love that stuff in general. It's probably one of not the most current creative art mediums ever.
Oh, definitely.
Just because when you think they're out of ideas, there's always something new. Like I know the big theme this year between Knott's and Universal was we're starting to explore bringing noir into horror because yes, we have Goring 20s here at Knott's, but if you go down to Universal in Florida, which this might be one of
Hmm.
my favorite haunted houses in a long time, but I can't really say that much because there's a haunted house out there that became my favorite haunted house of all time that I could talk a bit
Hmm.
later about. I won't go too much into it because I want to talk about it a lot when we're going back to the normal episodes. But they have a house there called Case Files on Earth Legendary Truth, which is done in a style that I don't think I've ever seen a haunted house do at any theme park haunt before. Which is it
Hmm.
does a very Ellie Noir approach on monsters, like Ellie Noir slash like mystery novel slash like Monster of the Week magazine type thing. And it's
Oh,
so
wow.
different. I've never seen a theme park haunt do anything like it before. They even beat us to the punch on that. The closest that we've got is Goring 20s, and that's more like a mafia mobster than like straight up noir.
That's super cool.
Yeah, I would look into it. It's very cool. Even if you have no idea like the lore mythos of the character of it and everything, just seeing a noir
Mhm.
themed haunted house and a room with like a live jazz singer and everything, it's just insane.
I think that's super cool, and I feel like that should be a theme that pops up a little bit more, or at least is utilized more throughout the years.
Yeah, I want to see it explored more, and I want to see Knott's take on it. I would
Oh
love to
yeah, for
see
sure.
Knott's
And
approach a noir themed house.
I don't know where they could put one near the Goring 20s, but if they're able to, I don't know, maybe go in the bumper cars again. I don't think that's a huge space, but just
Yeah,
something just to tie it into the Goring 20s would be
yeah,
super cool. Or wipe out the arcade somehow. I know it's a huge moneymaker, but
yeah.
clean it out and use that space. That would be super, super cool.
Yeah, if not one of those two, the closest spot I could think of is utilizing the special ops area again, but just going back to like the Terror of London days where it was just a normal house.
Yeah, they could totally do that. And they could maybe even expand the Goring 20s just a little bit further to the point where that discrepancy is gone, where it's like, is this Ghost Town? Is it the Goring 20s? What is it? So that actually might be a good location for it too.
Yeah, because there's nothing there, they could easily just stretch Goring 20s a little bit farther.
Yeah. Change the lighting package over there, change the theming, change um the decor just slightly into, because that strip is, I mean, yeah, it's Calico River Rapids, but it's not quite Ghost Town Streets. It's not quite Charleston Square. So it's pretty open for
Yeah,
interpretation.
yeah, it could easily be like, oh, it's the woods area of the town or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And they could do something with it. We'll have to see how they decide to change or expand anything. Because I do love Goring 20s, but it does feel a bit small.
Yeah,
It
no,
is
I
a
get that. I
very
mean,
compact zone.
they could potentially push Carnival right up to a border and push them a little bit further and just keep a tiny wedge in between where no one can scare. But it's it's one of those, should you cut into Carnival? Should you not cut into Carnival? Where can you expand Carnival to make up for, lost territory? It's hard to say.
It really is, unfortunately. But we'll have to see how it goes because I think this Scare Zone and Forsaken are gonna be permanent mainstays for a good while. Because even when you have stuff like Necropolis, those lasted a long time too. They weren't permanent, but they were there for a good long while.
That's true. That's true.
So if we're seeing these for a good amount of time, we could see kind of how it goes. I noticed the
I don't know.
Hollow kind of slightly expands a little bit. At least I saw actors in more spaces than I've never really seen them in past years. They probably give actors
Oh,
a little
that's
bit more
good.
freedom than before.
Well, and I'm sure they probably push talent out to streets first because that's the safest. Because outdoor spaces are the easiest and safest to scare, and so they probably threw them out there first and filled mazes second, and probably maybe even opened up a few extra spots on streets.
Yeah, because usually, when you're walking like from Fiesta Village and you're cutting through there to go into Camp Snoopy, that first area there before you get like up to the mountain and the waterfall, I used to never really
Hmm.
see a lot of actors there. It could have just been bad luck, and I just got lucky this year. But I saw a ton of people, like a ton of stretch out all the way to back there, where I thought was like kind of like a blank area for a good amount of time. Maybe I just never spent enough time in there, but I've never seen that many actors and that much consistency and props in that back area by Fiesta Village.
Yeah, no, that's something I'll have to keep an eye out for too, because I know exactly what you're saying. The halls always felt kind of sparse, and maybe it's just because there's so many little nooks and crannies that the actors just end up in, or I don't know. Maybe they filled up the streets a little bit more. I'll definitely have to check that out when I go.
Yeah, it feels like because usually the Hollow, when there's a lot of actors, that kind of thing would usually cut off by the lodge restaurant or whatever. I felt like it would kind of cut off there, and there'd be like maybe one or two towards the back, but not a lot. No, this year it's really consistent between the whole thing.
That's awesome. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's honestly might be one of our best years in a good while. I can't even deny it. Knots came back with the fucking vengeance this year.
And that's awesome because, like I said, it's that whole anticipation of, hey, look, we haven't had a haunt for a whole season. It's been about 2 years. What are you guys going to do to make up for that, even though it wasn't your fault? And they definitely seem like they delivered. So, and
Yeah,
what the beautiful thing is that, so my parents started going when I started working. I mean, my mom went when she was young, and I don't think my dad ever went, but he was never opposed to it. But then I got my brother to jump ship because he went to Queen Mary because it was so much cheaper when he was younger. And then now this year, I'm bringing my boyfriend for the first time ever. He's never been to one of these events. So if they're going to deliver like this, what a great first experience to have with Scary Farm, which is awesome.
yeah, it is a very strong year. I think Knott's and Universal in Orlando knocked it out of the park. Like they're the like well, I know this is pretty a main stake every year, but this year, like really more than ever, these are the Titan haunts this year. Like they are the
Well,
best
that's
in the
good to
game.
hear.
Unfortunate that I can't say the same about Universal Hollywood, but that's never really been much of the case. Lately, everybody's associated the big, like really good Horror Nights event with Florida's. Well, it is across coasts. That is probably that and Knott's probably have the best high quality theme park haunt mazes in the game.
Well, and I've heard the same, and I think a lot of it has to do with people put it. Someone like got it right on the nose when they said the problem is with Universal is they go, okay, who are my clientele? Yeah, they're the diehard haunt people, but what is my main clientele? People who just want to go and see a movie recreated so they can put in the least amount of money, least amount of effort, and still get the same clientele because, oh my gosh, Haunting of Hill House, that was one of my favorite shows on Netflix. I'm going to go and see that maze. Oh, this, because of the area, because it's LA, because it is what it is. Whereas I feel like Orlando doesn't have that same luxury. They have to kind of build their brand a little differently because they're not the main producing studio. So
Yeah,
they have to go, what are some innovative ways of bringing people in that isn't, okay, here's Halloween for the 50th time. Oh, we're going to still get the same clientele. I mean, it seems like they have the original characters and the original ideas to boot, which is awesome.
yeah. I mean, Universal pulled off making the fucking haunt community Mickey Mouse, so they know if they want a strong year, they got to do stuff for the fans. They
Yeah.
this year really is such a for the fans year. Anything that's like, oh, okay, we'll appeal to the like the movie people, like we'll get that clientele is very little this year because there's a lot more originals than movie houses this year for the first time in a good while, and
Yeah.
that's because they really wanted to like, okay, I know we like to do things a bit of a marketing approach, especially in Hollywood. But this year is our big 30, and we know who this year is for. We're just gonna go ham on what we know is for the fans, and that's what I like about that. And what I like about Knott's, they don't try too hard. At least Universal Florida, they don't try too hard to just appeal to big public people. They want to see Michael Myers again. They want to see Stranger Things. They'll do that, but it won't be their main marketing approach. They really try to
Yeah.
do things new and creative and interesting and different in any way that they can. And
Yeah.
that's why they're the best theme park ones, because they're the ones that feel the closest, I guess, to home haunts and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I remember even a lot of people were, talking shit and saying how they're ripping off Not Scary Farm with their one that was like similar to The Depths, and
Yeah.
they had I think it was a scare zone or something similar to Shadowlands. But I thought, you know what? I take it as
Oh, no, that was the
what is it?
Shadowlands thing was Hollywood,
Oh,
and
that was
but
Hollywood. Okay.
that's because Hollywood unfortunately is pretty cheap with their ideas, but that's just a given.
Yeah.
But the thing with Orlando, I know there was that bit of the argument. I got to see both Depths of Fear and Universal, and I got to see Revenge of the Tooth Fairy, which are the two big ones, and
Yes, I forgot about Revenge of the
they
Tooth
are
Fairy.
insanely different from the approach that
Not
Knott's has
stick.
had. Because with Depths of Fear, while yeah, it was a similar name, the actual approach, it felt like a very alien, like very like compact esque kind of maze. Where Depths is more
Hmm.
oceanic and out in the open. Depths of Fear, you're in a cramped submarine and it's very tight and it feels very like alien parasite esque. Like
Okay.
it is very different, and the Revenge of the Tooth Fairy is just so much different, like so much different. Whereas to the Tooth Fairy here at Knott's was a very like very 70s gritty movie, like Texas Chainsaw esque kind of approach, like more dental teeth stuff. The one over there is actually treated like an old like London folklore storybook, and a very like those manner
Oh.
stories of like the like learn to respect your elders or like learn to be nice to people, and it's pretty
Yes, I
much
know what you're talking about.
and the moral of this story is learn not to be a little shit and learn not to be rich.
Yes. Well, and the thing that now hearing all this, I mean, I even didn't mind if they were somewhat ripping off the idea for the fact of, imitation is the biggest form of flattery. And if they're copying ideas that we have because they think those ideas are good to build off of, then that's awesome. I mean, that says that our original ideas are good enough for a major production like Universal Studios, Hollywood, or Orlando, or wherever to take inspiration from things that they've seen from us, which I couldn't even be mad at. I was saying, you know what? If that's the route that they want to take, fine, because we all know where it started, and we know that it's because they like the idea. So whether they took the idea and ran with it, or took the idea and just, you know, built off of it, then it is what it is.
Yeah, my favorite thing about Universal Tooth Fairy is that it's actually a bit of a bait and switch. I feel like
Oh,
people are gonna go and expecting like, oh, it's one Tooth Fairy, it's a big slaughter guy, whatever. No, when they say Tooth Fairy, it's actually plural, and that means the story is the Tooth Fairies are actually a clan, so it's a plural Tooth Fairy, and they made a pact with
hmm.
mankind that if their children will give the Tooth Fairies their first tooth when they lose it, then or no, I forgot it was yeah their first tooth, then the family will be granted with like protection and like wealth and like power from them, and the tooth fairies leave them alone. But if the child refuses to give them the tooth, the fairies will come and kill the family and take the kid and turn them into one of the tooth fairies as well. And kind of that's how they grow and harvest
Oh,
their clan. So this one, you're going into the story of a really rich family called the Westthorn family, and their youngest kid James loses his first tooth, and since he's a snobby, spoiled rich kid or whatever, he's like, no, I don't want to give my tooth. This belongs to me. So you're watching as he learns the error of his ways in the worst way possible, watching his family get ripped to bits and watching him get turned into a tooth fairy.
oh, interesting. I like that approach.
So it is a much different approach in the sense that it's more like those like learn your manners, learn to be a good person, like those books that you would make to scare your kids.
Yes.
And it plays out like a storybook. Like you can read the pages as you're walking through the maze. It's narrated by a narrator throughout the whole thing. It is like a whole it's really creative, and it's an aesthetic that's very rarely done and rarely done well at a haunt.
Yeah, no, I can imagine how it can easily go south, and I might have to watch some videos on it since I didn't have the opportunity to head over there and see it for myself because that sounds pretty creative. I like that.
Yeah, it's really good. It's actually it's back this year because it was originally, well, it was made for this event, the 30th, but when the 30th got canceled in 2020 for the pandemic for Halloween season, they opened up two haunted houses down in Florida to give people, like, a little taste to tide you over. Here's a Horror Nights Light
That was
event.
Beetlejuice,
Yeah,
right?
no, Beetlejuice was the last weekend, the last 2 days of it. But
Last 2 days.
yeah,
Okay.
the last 2 days of it. But the main two that were open were Revenge of the Tooth Fairy and The Bride of Frankenstein Lives were the two that
Oh,
were
I didn't know they
open.
brought it last year. That's cool.
Yeah, but both of them got huge facelifts though since 2020.
Oh,
So
that's super cool then.
they still went through the effort of making them feel fresh for people that saw them millions of times in 2020.
Well, I'm glad that they did that because that's easily somewhere they could have flopped and just like, you know what? There are a whole bunch of people who didn't see it. We'll just keep it. But
Yeah,
I'm glad that they actually took the effort. So that's awesome.
yeah, it's really interesting. It's like like pretty big changes. Like Revenge of the Tooth Fairy, if you watch a video comparison to 2020s, 2021s, it got much gorier this year.
Ooh,
Like it
okay. I
is a
definitely have to
very
look into that.
it's a very gore heavy house this year.
That's super cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's all good. It's a fun time. I think it's weird to try to compare them to when they're both insanely different and insanely good house variations of their own rights.
And you know what? It might be fun for me to just compare both and see how it was
Yeah,
last year versus
yeah,
this year and just kind of see its improvements versus what made it, how did it start?
yeah. All I'm talking about, like the comparison of the Knots stories,
Oh,
and then of the Universal stories. But yeah, no, but yeah, that too. It does kind of apply to that as well.
no, yeah, that you're right. It'd be cool to see, just maybe I could watch them even back to back. Just a reminder of, I mean, I love Tooth Fairy because it's just so gritty and creepy, and
Yeah,
so to rewatch that would be a lot of fun, and then compare them side by side, watch them back to back.
yeah. On
Because
one hand,
I'm
you're
still
getting a
that person that watches those videos.
Yeah, on one hand you're getting a gritty gorehouse esque maze from Knots, and then you take the similar name and story, and then you make it into a very like regal, like old London kind of like learn not to be a little shit story.
Yeah,
And it's interesting to kind of compare how the two places handle them differently, and how they both are really good ways to handle a property like the Tooth Fairy in their own right.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Besides, I say out, or I guess you could say inside, outside of Knots. Do you have a favorite haunted house of all time?
So that's the funny thing. Going back to what's made me start Haunt was I've always been into special effects makeup in general. So the goal was always, you know what, I'm going to go on with my career, but I'd love to do makeup at Knott's. But I was such a chicken. I never went to any of this stuff. My brother would say, okay, I'm going to Dark Harbor. You should come with me. I said, nope, have fun with that. Go with your buddies. I'm staying at home. But I'd always have an affection for the mazes. Like I'd go, oh, they're so cool. Oh, I wish I could walk through, but I just can't. So I'd always watch the videos, and that was about as far as I got. So the only haunted attractions I've really ever been to it's not. I mean, I've been to little home haunts, or like I have a friend who teaches at East Whittier Middle School, and last year he did a drive-by haunt because of COVID, and I helped out with that just for fun and for free because he needs some scare actors, and I wanted to enjoy the Halloween season. So
Hmm.
something like that's very home haunt esque, and I'll go help him out with that. Or I went to a friend's haunt over in Chino Hills, and it was just at the haunted shop. I just walked through that and did the haunted car wash. But like big haunts, I've really only done Not Scary Farm. I have not gone to anywhere else. I've definitely watched videos, but not the same as paying for a ticket and experiencing it yourself.
Yeah.
I always thought, when I'm 18, I'm going to go be a makeup artist because I won't have to get scared. And then I was 18. I was working at Soak City the summer before, and one of my friends said, hey, I work as a scare actor there. Why don't you just go do that? I said, well, because I'm too freaked out. No, you're scaring everybody. Why? What would get you freaked out? I said, I don't know, being in a room with things. I don't know. He goes, just try it. He goes, you can do makeup all year round. Just go in there, try it out, see what happens. I said, okay. And that's when I got in paranormal. And that's where it helped out a lot of my fears because I was forced in a room where things were happening, creepy noises, the gurney shaking next to me. I was like, all right, I better get used to this because there's nothing else I can do except get over it.
Yeah.
So, and every other season I've been too busy, or, we'll have the 1 week before we start where Universal will be coming around and my friends would invite me, hey, let's go before we have to, start getting busy with this. And I'd always be like, yeah. And then I looked at my bank account and went, you guys go without me. So my plan is, as times go on and I'm stepping away from Haunt for a bit just to focus on school, that I can go visit these other things. But so I'm going to be biased and say Haunt's my absolute favorite and Scary Farm's the best.
Yeah, I feel you. I'd say it's kind of, I'd probably have to say Universal Orlando. It's because this kind of ties into. I still love Not Scary Farm. They're an easy immediate number two, but the reason why not your Horror Nights and the kind of the story or the lore mythos from a haunt that kind of got me into this general audience was and this ties into my favorite haunted house from a theme park haunt, or just my favorite theme park one in general, actually comes from Universal this year, because the story that mainly got me attached to this market is a story they have for Horror Nights in Orlando that takes place in the town of Cary, Ohio. And that town has a whole bunch of happening stuff you could look into. It is way too much to go into now because we're getting close to the end. But it's pretty much, they have a whole bunch of happenings, and it's just this really messed up, like really nice town. And for this year, for the every anniversary, they'll have what they call an anniversary house, pretty much, where they'll take the best of the best from past houses or past zones and stuff, and they'll put it all together in one big mishmash house, for people to go through and get that nostalgic sense. But for this one in particular, they decided to take every maze, or at least which like the top ones that took place in that story and that thing of Cary, Ohio, and they put them all together. And being able to see like that, going in blind and everything, and seeing all that come back and all the stuff that I've loved for just about a decade now, it felt like that scene in Ratatouille when the critic eats the thing of Ratatouille, and when he takes a bite, it flashes back to him as a kid. It felt like that, and I actually cried because that's where my like haunt thing comes from. Is from
that's
that
super cool.
one. So that's the only reason. I think I could say that's the only reason why I prefer Universal Orlando over Knott's, because that's where my love for this particular art medium kind of started. Was that story and those characters and everything they got going on there.
No, and that makes all the sense in the world. It's whatever you start with, whatever brings you back to what brought you to the event. And if that was Orlando, then that makes all the sense in the world. And for me, it's all I know is Scary Farm. So when I see things that, bring out the life and just, I like Mesmer. I wasn't an actor back when they had, was it Delirium? I think.
Yeah, I think Delirium is the closest house I've had to a house like this.
And you can see aspects of it. So it's nice to bring that back. And even though I only watched the videos back then, it was like, wow, I never got to experience that. And now I'll get to experience something very similar.
Yeah, I loved the bait and switch of Mesmer, where you think like, oh, it's a circus house. Oh, cool, we got something for Carnival. And then nope, here's fucking Delirium to Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mesmer is a really good one too. But yeah, I see. But it's just one my personal thing. People's Ghost Town Streets and People's Sarah Marshall and their whole thing. Cary, Ohio was my that whole Cary story. And there's so much to it that I can't get into all of it this episode.
No, I totally understand that. And that's the beautiful thing about Haunt, though, is when you start talking about things like this, it just brings up old memories. Or when you're supposed to be talking about one maze, it brings up something else. Or when you're talking about one scare zone, it brings up something else. Because Haunt is so three-dimensional in so many aspects, because it's the people who scare, it's the people who go to the event, it's the people who build the event, it's the people who are the minds behind the mazes. I mean, there's so many aspects of what you can appreciate. Exactly. So you could just keep going on, and that's the wonderful thing about this event that people don't really realize until they either step foot and really take it all in, or they actually work it as an actor or a blackout or a production, someone in production of any sort, I guess. I wouldn't even say a production assistant, but, a carpenter, a painter, a lighting or audio tech, a bat, working the maze and making sure it runs properly, you know?
Yeah, it's just such a big art thing, and it's cool to see so many people come together because it just everybody cares about this kind of medium so much, or this that you
Hmm.
see so many people and it's crazy to think that it all started with knots. I don't think the haunt industry would be nearly as much of a thing now if it was if if that wasn't approached, I guess. Like if Not Scary Farm didn't happen, if Walter Knott didn't approve of the event when his family was trying to go behind his back to try to cancel it, the first one, and then he found out about it, I don't think it would have been as it is.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I feel like putting on such a big stage and the original theme park of California, and everybody kind of looked at it as, okay, what are they going to do next? What's going to be introduced next? And that's the new big thing. And it started off so small, but grew so tremendously that I think other places realized we can capitalize on this holiday that people are just celebrating for a day. So I completely agree with you that if it wasn't for Not Scary Farm, we wouldn't have all these wonderful memories to talk about, all these wonderful haunts to compare to.
Yeah, exactly. It all started with knots.
And I mean, that's where sliding started. That's where a lot of these things started.
Yeah. So I guess with all that going through, I guess before we wrap up, is there anything you want to plug, or anything you want to talk about, or say, or anything to go over?
Oh, I'm trying to think about any other stories that I just was wanting to talk about because I mean, the procession of Carnival was a great one. Of course, I mean, there were some really good moments in Ghost Town, but I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, all I have to say is just thank you to everybody who I've worked with and had the pleasure of working with. I mean, I know that if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't want to keep going back because there's definitely this dynamic of family. And for everybody who talked me into working the event, I remember when I was a talent in paranormal and I walked over to the one of the ghost town tables, and it's only because someone I knew was over there and I wanted to go talk to them. And the next thing you know, I was kind of like, oh, they're talking to the ghost town people. I'll just kind of wait until, until they're done talking. And then they were. And they just started talking about zones and stuff for the next year. And something came up about Ghost Town. And I said, oh, I've always been told I was too short for Ghost Town because I'm only 5 feet tall. And in that moment, the table told me, they said, who told you that? I said, I don't remember. It was someone in a maze. They told me I'd be better suited for like Carnival or another scare zone where they take shorter people. They said, no, there's no height requirement for scare zones. You go to the scare zone based off of the character you want. And I felt so relieved that I can go wherever I wanted just based on, what I could put on the table. So, it's nice to have that camaraderie and those moments of, it doesn't matter where you are in the event. People talk to each other, and I really appreciate that. I mean, definitely there are, I don't want to say cliques, but cliques of sorts of, you're in this maze, you kind of only hang out with this maze. You're in this street zone, you're kind of only in this street zone. But overall, if you go up to somebody and talk to them, they're just the sweetest individuals, and I couldn't appreciate that more about our event. I can't say that for every other event because I haven't worked them, but I just love the fact that we have that open nature. And so I have to thank everybody I've had the privilege of working with and conversed with and all that fun stuff, because without them, these wonderful stories wouldn't happen. And I would have never had the opportunity to be on the streets because I would have thought, oh, I don't know how to be a clown. I'm not going to apply for a streets position. I'll just go back to my same talent position in paranormal, or, I would have been scared moving over to Carnival. But a lot of my friends in Ghost Town who were veterans who've been around for, like 10, 15, 20 plus years said, you know what? Some of the best talent we've gotten have come out of Carnival. Go over there, have fun. Maybe you'll stay, maybe you'll come back, but we'll see. So I just love the support system that is Not Scary Farm. I love that everybody is in touch with each other. I love that if something happens on the streets and you're not too happy about it, that your whole family has your back pretty much. So I just have to end it with that, of saying that every little story that I have that I might not even remember in this moment, I have to bring it back and thank all those who I got to work with,
Yeah, and I couldn't think of a better way to end this episode. That was really sweet.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, and even like the shenanigans we get into, or the many moments that Morty used me as Gumby and pushed me at guests. I mean, if we didn't communicate, we didn't talk to each other, that wouldn't have happened. The procession of Carnival wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for my friends at Dark Harbor. Shout out to Justin Cavities, because if it wasn't for him being terrified of dolls, I would have never met my wonderful friends at Dark Harbor either, because they called me over and made me harass him. So, there are cool moments like that you definitely get from meeting those individuals. And I mean, one last story just to end it, but I don't know if you're familiar with the photographer Nelson.
I think I am. What's their traditional handle, or their kind of, I guess, company name?
So he posts a lot on Facebook. Nelson, he looks like he's straight out of the 70s. He wears really cool bell bottoms. Nelson's a groovy fellow. Like, Nelson's awesome. But he doesn't usually post his stuff on Instagram. It'd mostly be on Facebook. But he is usually posted up in the scare zones. He wears bell bottoms and usually like a really 70s top. But once again, the wonderful thing about the haunt community is, oh my goodness, who was it? It could have been Death or one of the other guys, but they told me, hey, I need you to come over here. I was like, okay. See that guy over there? I was like, yeah, that photographer? Like, he's terrified of dolls. I said, oh. I said, well, that makes sense why he hasn't taken a picture of me, because I was new to streets and I'd see him snapping pictures, so I'd start scaring near him and then he'd pack up his stuff and leave. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Maybe he thinks I'm somebody that he wants to avoid. So then I'd see him again and I'd start scaring in the general area and he'd pack up and leave. And I went, okay, it's definitely a me thing. Like, I feel kind of offended about this. So then when I found that out, all bets were off. And then he didn't know I moved over to Carnival. So that was fun, because then I had all the lights to see him. Yeah. And I was a slider by that point, so I could see him, and I'd start skipping and I'd slide, so I'd get there even faster, and he'd book it out of the zone. So back in Ghost Town, one of the other photographers, Iris, love Iris, she's such a sweet lady, but she was forced to take pictures with, I forgot, I think it was Needles and somebody else. She had to take a photo with 2 different haunt monsters that creeped her out. And she said, okay, Nelson, I did this for you. You have to take a picture with Gumby. And he's like, She goes, I took a picture with 2 people who creeped me out. You could take a picture with 1. So that's another one. Those are some good pictures. Where last day of haunt, they walked over with him to the little photo opportunity spot that we have in Ghost Town, where we could take pictures with family and friends. And they took many photos of me next to him, and he was blocking me out the entire time. He had his hand up. He wouldn't look at me, but it was probably the highlight of the time I had at haunt, because once again, it's that camaraderie. It's that family aspect of, hey, we're buddy. We work in the same zone. We're friends with that photographer. Go get him because he's afraid of dolls. And I went, all right, say less.
That's amazing. I love that.
I will definitely have to send those photos your way, because they are
I need to see them. Quite
funny. Because they're professionally done photos, beautiful photos, but it looks like he wants nothing to do with me, because he didn't want anything to do with me.
I think the world demands it.
Oh, I will definitely send them over, because those are some good pictures. I mean, I made buttons of them and everything, because I wanted him to have a memory of the moment. And I even made him, oh man, that was the other thing. I also made him a Ken doll, and I cut out a picture of him, glued it on the face, made little groovy clothes for it, gave it to the other photographers because he wouldn't get near me, to give to him. And he was very receptive of the gift. He thought it was a peace treaty. It was not. And then I also made one for Cavities over in Queen Mary, and I made one for Kinder, who also worked Queen Mary, because he's also terrified of dolls. And I also made one for one of my buddies in our scare zone, Sparky, who also was terrified of dolls, but finally by the end of season was not freaked out enough to hold my doll and scare with it. So yeah, I forgot about the dolls too. I used to make them Ken dolls of themselves, and I would take a picture of me holding my doll, holding the Ken doll, and then I would give them a picture and the Ken doll, because just to rub it in just a little bit more.
That's great. We're gonna have to engrave that picture forever and put it on a shirt on
Oh
our
yeah,
shop.
I will send you all the photos, and you will do with them what you will. Because I totally forgot about that story, but just talking about the community of haunt reminded me of the beautiful ideas I was able to come up with because people said that person's afraid of dolls, and one of my other friends, Nikki Joe, was the one who said it would be hilarious if you made Nelson a Ken doll, and then it became tradition to make everybody who was afraid of me a Ken doll
Well, now
because
what
it
we
was all
gotta
men.
what we gotta do is we gotta take that picture and make a shirt or a face mask. You guys just wear it all around him whenever you're hanging out with him, and just
That's true.
engrave it into his mind forever.
Like, hey, remember this? This was a good moment. This is one of my favorite moments.
Yeah. Oh man, but I guess with that, I guess we're at a good spot to wrap up for now.
I think so, and I can send you those photos if you'd like to incorporate them into the episode or however else you'd like to
I
use them.
definitely will. This is being plastered everywhere.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
glad to know they're being put to good use.
Yeah. So with that, I guess I'd just like to say it's good to be back. We have some really fun stuff planned, and I'm excited to share the big project I've been working on with you, all you guys. All I can really say is it's not tailored to this. It will be a whole separate thing, but I'll still plug it. I'll still plug it on here and kind of talk about it on here. Maybe put the first trailer up, and it'll go into development pretty soon. It's in the early stages right now, but we're working really hard on it, and it's a fun little thing. So with that, I guess we can call it. It's been fun talking to you guys. It's been really fun having you on, Gumby.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, of course. And with that, I guess, well, I can't say we'll see you in the fog. I guess we could say it's good to see you in the fog. So,
Fair enough.
with that, so goodbye.
Adios.